any budget which cuts taxes is a good budget. And therefore, in that sense, the fact that it has given a considerable relief, certainly to people earning up to 15 lakh rupees per annum in income, that's a very welcome thing. The fact that slabs have been rationalized, exemptions have been rationalized in a manner that the government wants you to move to the new tax regime, which is a simpler regime without any exemptions, one income, one tax rate, pay it transparently and be done with it. However, the good part again is that it's not coercing you. It's not saying that I'm taking away the older regime. If you're a person who still believes in getting your exemptions through your insurance policies and through your other deductions that are permitted, it's saying fine, you continue with the old regime, but we would prefer, and we are giving you a simpler alternative to move to the new tax regime. So the tax cuts at a macro level are significant, especially up to 15 lakh rupees of per annum of income. Now, 37,000 crores is what the ministry has estimated as the money that has been put back in the hands of taxpayers. Now, that simply means that it's more money available for you to either save or spend. And there is a psychological thing here. If someone who's earning 15 lakh rupees per annum suddenly gets 35,000 rupees less in tax, then the feeling is that, oh, this is good. Last year I paid more. This year I'm paying less. I've always been eyeing that smart TV, or I've always been looking for that iPhone, or I've always been looking for, some gadget or the other, or that holiday that I always wanted to go to Ladakh or whatever. And you suddenly say, yeah, now I have the means to do it because this is coming back to me in taxes. This is a real effect. It happens. Tax cuts lead to higher consumption, expenditure, or savings. So that's on the shorter end of the spectrum. What is not being spoken of as much, because I think it affects very few people, but it is a significant move, is the cut at the higher end of the spectrum. Very rarely have governments in India cut the maximum marginal rate of taxation on the really wealthy people. This was done way back in the 70s and 80s, when the maximum marginal rate had gone up to 93%. And suddenly the government realized that 93%, no one's going to stay in this country, at least the people who are earning large incomes. So at that point, it was cut. But of late, this government had taken it up to a 43% level. And it was rare to hear a finance minister on the floor of parliament say that this is amongst the highest tax rates in the world. So for her to admit that I possibly made a mistake last year, she didn't say it in as many words, but she possibly, by saying that it's the highest in the world and I'm cutting it, she made that admission. Now, why has the government cut at the higher end? At the lower end, we've just discussed, it makes a lot of sense because it puts more money in the hands of consumers, large number of consumers. At the higher end, what was happening, and that hasn't received as much focus, is by taking the income tax rate up to 43%, two kinds of things were happening. A lot of wealthy people were just leaving the country and resettling overseas in lower tax jurisdictions. Now, the socialist mindset says that's a good thing. That's never a good thing, because if your higher tax paying people leave, then the government loses a lot of tax, because those are the people paying a very high amount of tax. And also, they are the ones who've got the wherewithal and the resources to save and invest in the economy. So if someone whose income is, let's say, 10 crores, I'm just using a number, decides to settle in Dubai, what has happened is that the income tax, which was going to come to the government of India, now goes somewhere else. The investment and savings which are going to come into the government of India now goes somewhere else. So the government realized that this large number of people who were leaving the country, this was clearly an impact of the higher tax rate. So I think it's coming from there. They were very concerned that some of India's wealthiest people would relocate out of India, and that is a bad impact. And number two was this arbitrage, that was the large difference between the high tax rate, 43% on an individual, and a very low corporate tax rate, 25%. So there is a 17 percentage point difference. So any large income earning person, let's say a doctor, let's say a lawyer, now if they're earning very high incomes, it made a lot of sense for them to not take the income in their personal name, but to corporatize the income, to put that income in a company, in a company that they own. So suddenly the tax rate comes down to 25% from 49. It's an aberration. From 39, it's an aberration. So again, the tax was being lost to the government by this very high rate. So while the lower tax rate impact has been discussed quite a bit, the fact that the higher tax rate was also creating a problem for the government, and it recognized that and cut it by 4 percentage points, that is significant in this budget as well.